Wow, so I don't think I recorded any of that. So there's still a bit of a view with the back room in. I've got a couple options now. I can either seal off this outer window by putting a sheet behind it and just calling it done, much as this effect here. I could cut a new window out of the interior wall, which would be a lot of work since I'd have to match everything up again. Or I can cut a new hole in the outer hull, which would be much easier. I'd really like to make this work. If I did seal it off, I could put a little picture on the inside wall there, or on the outside of the inside wall. Put some LEDs around in this area here to light it up, so that at least that way when you look at it from inside the ship, you could at least have a picture of the outside world. However, I'd really like to make this work, so I think I'm going to shift this window over. Getting this piece of plastic out of there is definitely going to be a tough one, but essentially the center should be somewhere. It looks like the center should be somewhere right about here. Maybe right about there. That's the one. There we go. The silver mark on the inside should do it. So I'm going to get drilling. So you can definitely see that I'm getting close. Looks like one more cut and it'll be centered on this little peak right here. I'm using a soldering iron to melt out all the plastic because this is really thick stuff and it would take a while to cut, and it's impossible to cut with an X-Acto blade. So I gotta have a gas mask going on here. So let me catch up with you a minute when I've repositioned this. And here we are, a little bit worse for wear, but definitely working overall. Still smells like burning plastic in here. The window could be set a little higher relative to the inner window. However, I don't know, it could be a little more centered as well. I don't want to set it too much higher because it should be even with this guy here. But maybe I will. And so after a lot of blind cutting, this is finally it. And I also think this shows off what kind of tolerance we've got on the inner room, which turned out to be just about perfect, I think. There should be a little bit of a gap there for the cone of the window, and that definitely shows that is not what is blocking this from fitting properly. I think the soffit is still a little loose on the top. That could be doing a lot of it. So next up, obviously, I've got a little bit of patching in front of me here. What I'll be doing is simply gluing styrene strips behind the wall and filling it in from the front. It seems like that should work out pretty well, and hopefully I've got this ring pretty well flat and centered with the curvature of the overall shape. And a minute later, here we are with the first pass. That's going to be wet for quite a long while. This is the single mix stuff. It's not the two-part. Hopefully it's going to be tough enough to do this. I've noticed that when I've gone a little thick, it can get a little flaky. But we'll let this solidify for a few days, and we'll go from there. The inside should be fine. I'll have to clean some of that out there. Hopefully I'll be able to pull those that styrene off there. Well, I probably shouldn't, considering how flaky this stuff can be sometimes. So like I said, I'm going to let this sit and dry for a while, and I'm going to get out of here. The fumes are a little strong. And here's one quick shot of the repair before I spray it with some paint. It's going to need a little more putty and sanding and smoothing, I think, but I just want to see where it's at right now. I also took the opportunity to sand down other bits of the hull that really needed it, so there were some scratches and gouges going on. So this is going in the paint booth, and we'll see what's up. So you can probably see that I've primed this, sanded it again, and even though it looks like I put more putty down, in fact all I did was wiggle the back of it, which now looks like that. So this extra piece should help stabilize those two side pieces. When the Bondo went down, it was really hot and it melted, or it at least highly distorted those two pieces of plastic, but it left the actual shell of the ship alone, thankfully. So that could have made all sorts of weirdness around the edges of the windows. So I'm going to sand this down once we get some daylight going. I don't want to wake the neighbors up with the orbital sander now, but I'm going to sand this down. And then I'm also realizing that this section of the hull has probably gone a little flat, so my idea is to run a bead of Bondo down here, get a squeegee of some sort, and basically spread it out from there, kind of match the curvature of the hull here as best I can, and press down and squeegee out, do it the other way as well to kind of help make sure that the roundness is still there. I don't know if it's really possible to... I think there's something going on. It's tough to tell if that dent there is the paint or the actual edge. And I think the curvature is different, just a little. And over here, one of the tubes popped loose. I should actually get this out of the way while I work on the outer hull. There's something else about this. I still got to glue this down and in. So now that the outer window actually fits, all I need to do is create the cone for it here, and it looks like I'll be able to balance it on the inside lip here. I hadn't thought of that before. It's going to be really thin. It's probably not going to meet the window, but it'll be as close as I can get it. I don't know that you could really do any better without actually sealing the hull up, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep this piece modular. I might have to glue the soffit down, it looks like, because the fit on that can be kind of loose in some places. And what else? Still got to put this wall in, and now that I'm thinking of it, it's a good thing I have not put it in yet, because I need to watch the show, and around this edge of the area here on this wall, there's like 2x4s lining it. There's another 2x4 section that comes out of here. This wall here is properly recessed. One thing I was worried about with this hull, let's just get it loosely in place. So this wall here is the proper depth in from the outer hull. I was really worried about that not being the fact. And there's also some 2x4s that rim this outer area here. I think they go along the ceiling, and then there's actually a 2x4 sticking out perpendicular from this wall at the hatchway. And speaking of the hatchway, I'm hoping I haven't lost those two little pieces from not too long ago. There's one of them. So this is going to be glued down to the floor. Actually, I need to seal that. And then I've got to paint the other one still. There it is on the floor. So those have to go in here. Then there's 2x4s that go up each of the sides of the wall there. There might be something up on the ceiling that comes across apart from the 2x4 that's parallel to the ceiling. I've got to put a clear sheet of plastic in that top hole there. There's an LED that goes above that. So there's definitely a few more things to do. This isn't going to get sealed up anytime soon. So let me divert back to this now that it's actually sealed up. But the window is fairly well centered. I don't know. Oh, there's the inner window. So I think essentially as long as the cone is bigger than this and fits in the other one as well, that should work. Well, no, on the inside it'll look weird. Well, there's only so much that can be done about that. I don't even know that this is really all that particularly visible. Oh, yeah, that's a good amount of light coming through there, huh? So those strips on the back were kind of weak. So I decided to pull those out rather than keep adding more and just put a single panel in. And I'll leave that clamped for a while. That's going to be more than big enough to cover everything, and it won't get in the way of anything either. So, what's next? I don't know. I think I'm just going to skip up to FlightLog 26 next. So, there's painting these little guys that still has to be done, if you can see them in there, and the other couple minor things, and then we'll be getting to electronics. I've already done a little here and there. That will come up in the FlightLog afterwards, and yeah, so that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See ya.